Okay, I see some people coming in. Welcome, everyone, to our webinar today talking about forecast. We'll give it about a minute or so, let people filter in, and then we'll start. We'll give you a bit of overview of what we'll be discussing, what we'll be showing, which I think is going to be probably the most exciting part of this, and kick it off. But just 1 or 2 more minutes. You should be able to chat. So we do have Nicole here. She's on screen right now. She'll go off screen, but she'll be behind the scenes. So if you have any questions or comments or anything, you can put that in the chat and she will help answer questions. We'll also have some time at the end for some Q&A as well. So you can stick around for that and we'll answer some questions live and talk and discuss. Does anyone want to say where they're from? Any attendees want to throw in the chat where they're zooming in from? Boston, Atlanta, Switzerland. Oh, wow, Switzerland. Oh, a whole, okay, now there's a ton. Ireland, very cool. For those who just joined, we're just giving it like about a minute or so, let people filter in and then we'll kick it off. Okay, we're at one. I think we can go. I think we're good. Let me get my screen in the right place. Okay. Welcome everyone to our webinar today. We're really excited to talk to you about Forecast, our companion product to Harvest. We'll do some introductions here and then we'll get into some background around just some feedback and research that we had done and then spend most of our time doing some demo work. We've got Maggie here who her superpower is demoing and answering questions and supporting our customers. So that's the high level agenda. I'll detail it a little bit more. But first, let's pop up just a quick presentation. Alrighty, everyone should be able to see my screen. I will go into slideshow. Okay. Does this look good from my panelists? Does this look like we're good? Okay. All right. Reintroducing Forecast. So that's what we're here today to discuss. As I said, Forecast is Harvest companion product. It is a team planning, scheduling, capacity visualization tool. It was built to work in tandem with Harvest. So I know we have Harvest customers here on the call. So we're really excited to talk both about what Forecast is, demo what it is just natively, but then also discuss how both Harvest and Forecast, they work together. And so let's get into it. First, I think we got to do some introductions. So I'm going to pass it over to Brian. Brian, would you like to give us a quick little introduction?
Hey everyone, thanks for taking the time to join us today. I am the VP of Product here at Harvest. So I lead the product management, product design, and product operations teams here. And I'm excited about sharing more about our Forecast product today. I've been at the company for about a year and a half, and I live in New York City. I'll hand it off to you, Maggie.
Hello.
Thanks,
I am Maggie Harrison. I'm a customer success manager here at Harvest, which means that I help to onboard customers, help some of our bigger customers make sure that they're set up for success. I've been with Harvest. I just hit my 6-year anniversary at Harvest, previously of our support team, which Nicole is a part of. And I am up here in Boston, Massachusetts.
Very cool. Thank you, Maggie. And I'm Cameron. I am a product marketing manager here. So I get to split my time between both product, talking to customers, doing research, but then also the marketing side of things, getting to organize events like this, which is a lot of fun. I grew up in Ohio, but I've been in Los Angeles now for the last, I don't know, 7, 8 years, something like that. And I'm actually just like days away from my first year anniversary at Harvest. So that's exciting. Okay, so our agenda today, we're going to do a little bit of background on just what we've heard our customers, what we've heard from you all about just your story, where Harvest and Forecast both sort of fit within that story. And then Brian's going to talk to us a little bit about, in greater detail, some of the research that we did. We had first released Forecast. We first released Forecast back in 2014. We had customers, a lot of customers using it. We talked to a lot of customers about that, and we started to spot some opportunities to make it better. So he'll go through a little bit of what we learned about your planning process. And then we'll do a demo. So Maggie will walk us through Forecast. There'll be opportunity for questions. Please add those to to the chat. And then we'll leave some space at the end for just Q&A discussion, anything anyone would like to surface within the chat. Okay, customer story. So this is very high level. But one of the things that we've heard time and time again, I talked to our CEO, Danny, who had talked to a ton of customers, and there was this common thread, this common story that at some point, he almost called a lot of our customers, seem to describe themselves almost as like accidental entrepreneurs, that at some point, they decided, hey, I've got this skill. I can consult. I want to start an architecture firm. I want to start a lawyer shop. And so something that they're good at, and they could maybe start a business with it. And that's what happened. You started a business. You might have had 1 or 2 people, small team, started taking on projects. You started taking on clients, started to figure out exactly what works, what doesn't. But at some point, as you start to mature, there's this idea that you need to be able to track your time. You need to be able to allocate your resources, sort of understand where your team is working. You also need to be able to turn that work, those hours, into invoices. And that's really where Harvest came from, was this idea that prior to that, it was a very manual process. We talked to a lot of customers at spreadsheets and these kind of complex, handmade, homemade tools. So we wanted to provide a really simple way for you to be able to track your time. But then as we continued working with customers and as we continued to watch them grow, they were starting to scale. They were starting to add more people to their team. They were becoming more mature. And you hired more. And there was this emerging need, as we talked to you all about, I've got 5 people, I might have 10 people now. And it's not enough just simply to commit to projects and start tracking time and understand those hours. But now I need to start scheduling. I need to start understanding what my team's work looks like for the next week, the next month, even the next quarter. There's these planning cycles. You need to figure out what you can commit to. And that's really where Forecast, that was the genesis of Forecast, was having something that can work alongside Harvest so that you both have track time and also scheduled time, and really start to build this very comprehensive view of your team's time, both what has happened and what will happen. So that's Forecast. We, as mentioned, this was released first in 2014. Talked to a lot of customers, received a lot of feedback, and I think we saw an opportunity to invest and reinvest almost in Forecast and make it better. And so, Brian, I would love to pass it to you, and also quickly, actually, I'm going to hold that, but I'm going to pass it to you for this first piece of it. What did we hear? What did we do? How did we approach this?
Yeah, thanks, Cameron, for providing that context. So when I joined Harvest, I wanted to spend time getting to better understand our customers and how they use the product. We aggregated feedback and feature requests from our support tickets, NPS, cancellation reasons, customer success conversations, all these different sources. And we also scheduled calls with our customers, and we looked to understand what are their jobs to be done, or in other words, what are they trying to accomplish in our product and more generally in their work. And from this long list of jobs to be done that we collected, we then surveyed our customers to understand which ones were most important to them but not currently yet being fully satisfied. We saw scheduling and forecasting related jobs surface to the top. In particular, we have on the slide here, customers were looking to effectively schedule teammates across projects and ensure they're not under or overutilized, and to forecast revenue, margin, and capacity to better understand future business health. And the data showed that these jobs became more important as customers grew and their scheduling and forecasting needs increased. We also did a little bit research looking at different product areas and where our customers were looking to provide more tooling and better meet their needs in these different areas. So we surveyed our customers to understand which areas they're most interested in. And again, resource management surfaced at the top of the list, with over 30% of our customers indicating they were extremely or very interested in a tool in this space. Across all this research, it became clear that we had an opportunity to leverage as well as improve the forecast product to help our customers schedule and forecast more effectively.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Maggie, I would love really quickly, you've talked to a lot of customers. Is resource management team scheduling, is that easy? Is that an easy thing for them to do?
This is a softball, Cameron. No, that is something that a lot of teams really struggle with. And in fact, a lot of the folks that I'm working with, that I am demoing forecasts to, that I'm, trying to help find a tool that will fit their needs, a lot of them are coming from planning their team schedules using Excel. And it's incredibly manual. I have seen some of these spreadsheets. They are monstrous. And having a tool that is streamlined, easy to use, simple, but provides those powerful insights that they need is really a game changer.
Yeah, I talked to a number of customers as well. I've talked to some engineers, early people that worked early on forecasts, and there was some horror stories I think that we heard. People devoting their entire job was like managing a complex spreadsheet. So I think that was a big sort of a point of emphasis for us, is like, how can we make that better? Brian, I want to first, before I pass it back to you, just a quick call out. So our product manager, Yi Tao, she was the lead, has been the lead on forecast. She did a ton of research. Once we really, as Brian said, started to realize that there was this opportunity to provide a better way to reinvest in forecast to make it better, capitalize on some of that feedback we've heard from you. She talked to customers about the planning process. And so I'd love, Brian, what did we hear about this process, and what goals, challenges, how did that work?
Yeah, we learned a lot in our conversations with customers, and the planning process was an area that they were doing and had processes around, but had a lot of pain points in those workflows. Yeah. We ended up learning that the planning process was often kind of thought about in these three stages. There's forecasting and estimating, which is early in the process. Then plans are created and schedules are assigned. And then the team is monitoring as the project is being worked on. And we learned about each of these stages. Let's take a look at forecasting and estimating.
Yeah.
So we learned our customers are typically planning ahead. And it may be by quarter, might be by 6 months, can be annually. And in this planning, they're looking to understand what projects they'll be able to take on in that period, how long those projects will take, and whether the team has the resources to deliver on those projects effectively. We found that our customers often found this difficult to do and didn't have a clear tool or process to help them navigate it.
So forecast and estimate, it's this early stage trying to figure out what you can commit to, that then transitions into the actual, you've committed to a project. Now you need to plan it, you need to figure out who's going to work on what, right? Tell us a little bit about planning and scheduling.
Yeah, so during planning and scheduling, our customers are putting together more concrete and specific plans on the projects that they've taken on, breaking down those plans and assigning individuals to specific aspects of the project. During this phase, they're looking to make sure that individuals on their team have enough work scheduled and are not overloaded. They're also looking to be able to match the work with the employees that have the skill sets to be able to execute that. One of the things our customers highlighted in this stage is that they're often planning at different levels of
Yeah.
granularity throughout a project. And so early on, for example, they might be planning at a higher level and perhaps looking to understand who's working on what at a month level. And then as they dig into the details of the project and are starting to execute, they're now looking to understand what will be worked on by day or by week.
Yep. And then monitoring, which things don't change, right? Things are never having to adapt on the fly. There's not. So talk to us a little bit. Like why is this part of it so important?
Right. Obviously, we heard from our customers, things often change and they're learning as projects proceed. They're really looking to understand a few things. One is they want to be able to identify when someone is under or overutilized so that they can reassign work or adjust plans as needed. They're also looking to understand what was planned during a certain period versus what got done so that they can understand how well they're tracking against their plan and if they need to make adjustments. And then finally, across all of their team, they're looking to understand how are projects progressing against budgets and overall timelines. And they want to be able to identify when things are going off track early so that they can make those adjustments as needed. We spoke with many customers, as you mentioned, Cameron. They're doing this in kind of spreadsheets and other makeshift tools, and they describe it as a very manual process currently that can be frustrating in order to collect and then analyze the data that they need.
Yeah. I think one thing that's always struck me about when I've talked to customers or heard from customers is um, that it is the success of a project that it's just very often your ability to adapt on the fly and to be able to find errors, scheduling conflicts, and things like that. So, forecast the flexibility side of it, the ability to adjust. I think that was just a really big emphasis for us. Thank you, Brian, for just a little bit of that background. And I would love now let's actually talk about forecasts. Let's talk about what this tool is. So forecast, it's a team planning tool. It's this simple, very visual way to be able to schedule your team across projects. You can be able to visualize their time, check in on capacity. Maggie here in just a moment, she'll take us through a number of some key product areas of forecast. So we'll discuss visualizing your plans, that scheduling component of it, which I think is the bulk of what a lot of our customers are doing on a day in, day out basis within forecast. But we also want to touch on the rebalancing side of it, the ability to check in on availability, to check in on capacity, and make sure that, yes, you're solving for utilization and you want to boost that and improve that and have that hit the sweet spot, but you also want to protect your team, protect them from burnout and not have them overextended where timelines might, get dragged on or their quality might suffer. So that's a big piece of it. And then finally, what happens when you bring harvest and forecast together, when you bring track time and schedule time? So there's a lot of great kind of nifty things that we're able to do, whether it's budget predictions or estimate versus actual, seeing really how your team has been tracking across projects and how they're tracking according to the plan that you may have set a month, 2 months prior. All right, Maggie, I will let you take over.
All right, let's do this thing. Let me share my screen here. Okay, so let's have a look at forecast together. What does forecast actually look like? So we are currently on one of two scheduling views that forecast offers. This is the project view of forecast. So what you see down the side here are a list of all of my projects. And yes, they have silly names. I work with people across a lot of different industries, but I hope everybody has eaten a pastry at some point. So it's a bakery themed sandbox account. It is what it is. So for each of these projects, I am able to click on them to open them out. I can see who has been assigned to these various projects. And this is where that ease of use we were talking about earlier really gets to shine. So if I want to assign somebody to a project, I can click here, choose their name, and I can create an assignment where I can set the total number of hours I want them to work in a day, the total hours I want them to work across whatever the time frame is. So if I want this person to work from today, or let's say the beginning of next week or week after next, I guess, through the end of the month, have them work 2.5 hours per day, I can do that. And this is where some of the new innovations that Forecast has that have been created in Forecast recently are really useful. So previously, you could only schedule in hours per day, but now we also have hours per week and hours per month, and that allows you to zoom back from your project and get a much more holistic sense of where the time is going. And you can schedule at a less granular level too. So let's say I even want to look at the month view here. I can say, all right, I want Peanut here to work, let's say, 5 hours across the month. We're wrapping up the project. She doesn't need to do a ton of work, but she's got some work she needs to get done. So we'll say I want her to work 5 hours across the month. I can save that time assignment, and it is a monthly assignment now. Flipping back to the day view just because it fills up the screen better and you can see what I'm doing a little bit more easily as well. Forecast's interface is so simple. You can drag and drop time assignments, can just pick one up and move it around. You can hover over the break between days to split an assignment up and shift part of it around. If I want to say, oh, well, this time assignment is actually going to repeat weekly, I can open this up, make it repeat weekly for 6 weeks, update that. Oh, except that I've already got another time assignment in December. Let's make it repeat weekly for 3 weeks instead. There we go. Now I have this recurring meeting, and I can move just one of those or this and all of the future ones, whatever I need to do. Um, and if you have a sort of complex schedule that one of your teammates has and you want to duplicate that across multiple other teammates, that's super easy. I can just copy this person's time assignment to someone else. So who is someone who isn't scheduled on this at the moment? I think everybody's already on this project. So I can't actually do that, but super simple. I can do that actually in a different project. Here we go. I'm going to copy Cinnamon's time assignment here to, let's say, me, because I'm not on this project at the moment. And there we go. This time assignment has been copied. In addition, there is one other amazing thing that you can do with this, which is tracking your team's time off and making sure that you're not over-resourcing them while they are scheduled to be out of the office. So our time off project up here allows you to assign everyone if you know you're giving a whole company holiday, or if you just have one person who is going to be off on a specific day. Let's say that I am going to take off the 11th, the Monday, as just a Monday off. I can save that time off. And now my time is blocked off so that my managers know they shouldn't be scheduling me on that day. So that's a super easy way to track all that stuff.
Thank you, Maggie. One thing I wanted, so you mentioned previously, one thing that we saw an opportunity to make better was previously forecasts. You were planning hours by day. We wanted to add plan by week, plan by month. Something that I heard a lot, a use case that I did not like originally anticipate as I started working more on forecast was there is this like more granular level. We need to figure out exactly the fine tune the hours in this week that every person is working. But there is that need, that broader planning scale need, that stage of the planning process. And it's a little less clear, I think, at that stage. It's more scenario planning. It's more, okay, if we put, we have use some placeholders. If we put some people on this project, we have this is going to take this many hours. And I think the goal of that's a little bit different, where it's less about allocating specific projects and figuring out what your timelines are, and more about making those decisions around do we have, do we need to hire? Do we have the people to be able to commit to this project? Can we run these two projects simultaneously? Um,
Absolutely. It's a
yeah.
sort of a more strategic level of project planning and things like that. And also because it's so zoomed out, it also gives you kind of a nice view of a project's history. You can see if as I'm scrolling back in time here, I can see how long my various projects took, whether,
Yep.
as I'm gearing up to do another similar project, is it going to take a similar kind of timeline? Again, it makes those more sort of bird's eye view decisions easier to make.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So we've talked about team scheduling. We know it's critical to be able to assign the right people for the job, lock in those project timelines. Let's talk about the other side of this balancing act of managing capacity, managing availability, managing your team's mental well-being in some cases, right? I'd love for you to
Absolutely.
show us, yeah, a little bit about that part of forecast.
Yeah, for sure. So the team view of the schedule is in many ways exactly the same, except that instead of your projects listed out down here, you have your individual team members. And you can view your teammates' capacity on this weekly capacity view, which tends to be my favorite. But you can also view it as daily availability. So, how many hours in a given day does someone have available to take on new project work? And just like with those projects, you can open out someone's time. And let me go back to this week. There we go. You can open out someone's time and see what projects they are assigned to. So what this gives you then, I'm going to switch it back here to the weekly capacity view. What this gives you then is this nice kind of heat map of uh, who is overscheduled, who's in danger of burnout, who needs help on their projects, who maybe needs something taken off their plate, and who is underutilized, who is not being taken advantage of to the max, who has the space to take on new projects. So, for example, Apple here is way overscheduled. The poor thing. She is going to burn out and quit on me. But then I look at someone like Brioche, who basically I haven't scheduled her out past the end of next week. So what I can do here is I can say, all right, well, actually, let's take this time assignment here. And I'm just going to switch it. I want Brioche to take this on instead of Apple. That'll help everybody. So I can update that. Now Brioche is down to 106% of her capacity, which is still, she's working real hard. Girl deserves a bonus, but she is less overcommitted than she was. And if I want to continue taking things off her plate, I can. It's very easy to shift people's capacity around from here. Another wonderful thing about this view of forecast is that we understand that things aren't always set in stone. You might not know who is going to be doing work on a specific project. And so let's say if I know that I need to have a baker do some work on a project, let's say they're going to be working on the biscuits project and they're going to need to do some work at the end of, or let's say the second half of next month, I can save that time assignment and I know that this is work that needs to be done on this project. It will appear on the projects page in the, what was it? It was the biscuits project. There it is. It'll appear on the projects page as scheduled hours, but I don't yet know which of my bakers is going to have the capacity to take that on. When I'm ready to make that decision, I can filter this page to just the folks who are tagged as bakers who have that role and say, okay, who's able to take this work on? It looks like Cinnamon has the capacity, so I can reassign this to her, update that. Oh, she's already on that project. Sorry, I should have checked this beforehand. Let's say Charlotte can do this, update that project, and now it is assigned to an actual human who has the capacity to take it on.
Thank you, Maggie. In either the scheduling piece or the capacity piece, is there something when you work with customers and you demo forecasts or you work with them setting up their account? Is there anything like, are there specific things that tend to leap out or that just, I don't know, wow moments maybe or anything that stands out to them in terms of an improvement over how they're currently working?
Absolutely. So those monstrous Excel spreadsheets can be really good for doing a lot of the sort of nitty-gritty, very granular scheduling, but they're not very flexible for one. So the flexibility of being able to reassign, drag and drop, make things repeat, that sort of what you see is what you get editing view, is so helpful for a lot of people. And especially on the projects page. For example, if a project gets delayed and you've put a bunch of time into scheduling everything, you can very easily in Forecast, shift your timeline. So if the November phase of this project has been delayed, I just want to shift all of those forward a week. I can shift that timeline, and then we now have this week grace period to reflect the changes that have gone into the planning. So that ease of use is definitely a huge part of what people love about Forecast. And the other one, honestly, is this heat map. This ability to see in such a like visual and visceral way where your teammates are overcommitted, where your teammates are maybe bored and like ready to take on something new. Being able to view only specific subsets of your team, being able to view everybody. If I only want to see the managers, clearly some of us have too little work on the management side of things in my sandbox. But this ability to really get a sense of the overall health of your team, I think is incredibly valuable to a lot of folks.
Awesome. Um, Thank you, Maggie. That was fantastic. I think the final thing that we want to do, so we've talked team scheduling, assignments, capacity management, and visualizing and rebalancing workloads. Um, Forecast is built to work with Harvest, and so what does that unlock when you get those two, when you have those two things connect, those two tools connected? And for Harvest customers, if you do start a free trial with Forecast, we'll automatically connect your accounts together, so you don't have to do too much of that admin work. But when Harvest and Forecast are connected, we're bringing scheduled time and track time together. How does that manifest in both tools, I think, right?
Absolutely. Well, there are two major things that the integration of Harvest and Forecast bring to your understanding of your projects. If I click this actions menu and I view the report in Harvest, this will take me to my Harvest project page, which I'm sure all of you Harvest users are intimately familiar with. But the two things that I get here are this predictability. I can see I've got my budget progress over time. I can see how much of my budget I have remaining. I've got 33% of my budget remaining. It feels like my project should be pretty healthy. But when I look at the time that I have scheduled out into the future in Forecast, that shoots my project over budget. I'm going to come in at more than 20 grand over budget on this project, according to the time that I have scheduled out with my team now. So, oops, maybe I need to reconvene with my client and renegotiate the budget. Maybe I need to trim the scope a little bit and take some people off the project, try to slim down the ending of this work. Um, Maybe we need to just call it early if it is a time frame based project. So having an understanding of where your project is going before you get into that moment of, oh God, we are at budget and we're only, 2/3 of the way through the work that needs to be done for this project. Being able to see that coming can be a big benefit. Um, and in addition, the Harvest Forecast connection will let you know where things went off the rails. So I'm able to look at the hours per week here and see how my estimates and actuals stack up against each other. So I can see this week where my team tracked more time than I had estimated they would. I can see these weeks where my team was already working on this project and I hadn't created any estimates for them. So we started out at this kind of deficit. So you really do get the ability to compare your ideal scenario, best case estimates with the day-to-day reality of what your team ends up tracking. Um, and we have these nice graphs that are pretty and visual and again give you that good visceral sense of what all's going on. But we also have the nitty-gritty down here in the table below the graph where I can see the estimates, how much people were expected to work on the project, the actuals, how much they actually worked on the project, and then the difference between those two. So I was supposed to put 17 hours into this project. I put in over 100. I am definitely one of the leading causes of our project being way over budget right now, because that's an 87-hour difference. So all of this information is right here, makes it really easy for you to course correct or just to get that understanding so that the next time you build a similar project, you have a better idea of how to price things and how to estimate out the time it'll take.
Yeah, that's something I've heard quite a bit as well. That it's not just you might catch that, hey, the last couple of weeks we've either gone over by quite a bit or gone under quite a bit the amount of hours. Where is that happening? Did someone have to take, was there sick days? Someone have to take time off? Um, so there could be some degree of like, we need to pinpoint what happened, but there also could just simply be, actually, this work doesn't take as long as we thought it was going to take. And if that happens consistently over time, I think there's this ability, this really nice way to see those insights and be able to learn from that, and then be able, to exactly your point that you just said, to be able to pinpoint or just better estimate, right? And better scope the amount of time that you need. Okay. I'm also looking at the chat a little bit. I think there's been a couple questions about specific, while we have you, Maggie, a couple questions about specific functionality. One thing I saw a question about milestones. I wonder if
Oh,
maybe
yeah,
we could
absolutely.
show that for, yeah.
For sure. So milestones are really simple ways to sort of break up these big long strings in your forecast scheduling. So I can say, all right, well, we've got a milestone coming up here. It's going to be the end of phase one. And it's as simple as that. So that is now going to sit here and I can have this as a reference as I am creating all of these other time assignments. So if this person needs to be taken off this project at that point, I can delete their time assignment post this. If this project work needs to be moved to it, you can absolutely do that. So it really is just kind of a visual marker on your time scale to make sure that that you're, keeping on target and scheduling things out appropriately.
Okay. Thank you, Maggie.
Yeah.
Um,
I,
just,
I saw
yeah, go
another
ahead, Brian.
question on kind of what the shading of colors mean.
Oh
Maggie, how
yeah.
do you see
Color
people
theory.
use that? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So these colors are, you can assign them as you choose. I have just assigned them, I think basically, oh no, I've assigned them completely at random, apparently. I previously had assigned them according to clients. So some clients, all of their projects were orange, other clients, all their projects were blue. But I also have customers who use these colors to indicate, well, this is a potential project. This project has been won and is being planned out. This is an active project. So indicating project status essentially using these colors, but it's very easy to change the color of a project. You go to the Manage tab here, which we didn't get into because it's getting pretty in the weeds. But you can always head in here and change the color on a given project, update that project, and then when you go back, it's been changed. Basically, it's an additional tag for folks to use in whatever way they want. And you can always filter according to color label, as well as any other project tags that you might want to add inside Forecast.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thanks, Maggie.
Yeah.
One other, actually, I liked this question to hosts and panelists. Do you intend to use forecasts to estimate projects that are still in the sales pipeline? And I actually have seen instances of this where customers will have a section of projects and forecasts that are not yet won, and that's where a lot of that like scenario planning is happening, and they're making updates. Have you seen that as well, Maggie?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you may have noticed that I have tentative and 50% as project tags here that I've
Yep.
created as I was talking to folks who were wanting to plan out these projects that they weren't certain of. A lot of times folks will use these project tags or use, a green, that's probably actually the go color. So say maybe an orange or a purple for planning out projects that might not be certainties yet. And this is also a great use of placeholders as well. You can say, I'm going to need 50 hours of programmer time, 30 hours of design time. You can allocate those couple of placeholders to make sure that everything's scheduled out appropriately.
Great. Okay, I know there's a lot more questions. We're going to do some Q&A at the end, and I think we're about there. The last thing I wanted to share is just a little bit about seeing some questions about like pricing details, free trial details. So let me take over from you, Maggie,
Absolutely. There we
and
go.
then we can also hop back in the demo too for the remaining kind of Q&A open section. Uh, okay. Um, So some questions about pricing. So Forecast, it is a companion product to Harvest. You can start a free trial right now by going to getharvest.com/forecast/sign up. It's 30 days. You'll have access to everything. Harvest customers will automatically connect your account. And then if you decide you want to purchase Harvest, it is $5 per user. If you go with a yearly subscription, $6.25 for monthly. And I think anything else anyone, any of my panelists would like to add or mention? Brian, we could talk a little bit about some vision.
Happy to close on some vision. So we're looking, we think that there's a lot that can be enabled with Harvest and Forecast together. We think being able to combine the plans that customers create in Forecast with the time and expenses that they track in Harvest really enables our customers to better understand their business and how they're working. And we want to help our customers gain deep insights into their utilization, their progress against budget, the accuracy of their plans and estimates, and an understanding of where they're profitable and how they can improve that. Ultimately, Harvest and Forecast together really is what we think unlocks these actionable insights that's going to help our customers continuously improve their business.
Thank you, Brian. Okay,
Yeah.
I think that concludes the prepared presentation-y portion of this. So I think now we'll do some Q&A. I know we've got Nicole in the chat answering as many questions as she can. I think we'll surface a few live. Let me stop sharing. So in case we want to hop back into Forecast, Maggie can take over. Let's see. I think I saw a question about permissions in Forecast, about who can see this information.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I have hopped into the chat to sort of aid poor Nicole, who's trying
Yeah,
to sift through all of this. So just to answer the question about pricing before we get back in there. Um, So just wanted to say the forecast is $5 per seat per month if you pay on a yearly basis. It is $6.25 per seat per month if you pay on a monthly basis. You need a seat for everyone who is being scheduled, as well as everyone who needs to schedule things out. And you do not have to have the same number of seats in forecast as you do in harvest. They're billed separately. All of that is separate. Since that was kind of an FAQ
yep.
that I was seeing repeatedly. As for permissions, absolutely. Let me share my screen again so that we can talk about permissions. So permissions in Forecast are quite different from permissions in Harvest. When we go to the team page, I can see here that the person can sign in or not. And if they can sign in, they can be a view only user or a view and edit user. So this means you can have people in Forecast who don't have any access to the tool. They can be scheduled out. You can make sure that they're not being overloaded. But forecast is fundamentally a tool for managers, for planners. The individual contributors don't necessarily need access to all of that. That said, if you want them to know what they have been scheduled to work, you can still make that happen. We have this calendar feed that you can set up here. This will send them a link that they can add to their calendar program of choice so that they can pull their forecast assignments into their calendar, know what's expected of them without having to sign in and see everybody's schedules. If someone can sign in as a view-only user, you know what that means. They can sign in, they can see the whole schedule, but they can't make any changes. View and edit users are the equivalents of Harvest's admins. They can see and make changes to everything in the account, including the subscription, including assignments and roles and all of that stuff.
Perfect.
Thank you, Maggie. I'll just add regarding Rachel's question. We have the ability to automatically import and sync the Harvest users with your forecast users so that you don't have to manage those separately, but you don't need all of your Harvest users to be in forecast. You can select which ones you want to schedule or be scheduling, and those are the ones that you can add to forecast.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. Okay. We'll stay on for just a couple more minutes and look through the chat, answer some questions.
Yeah, I am going to mute myself and hop into the chat here with Nicole and try to get answers to everybody who submitted questions.
Perfect.
I'll also stop sharing.
Do all users in Harvest need to have the forecast subscription, or can it just be a couple of team members have forecast? I think that's a pretty common occurrence where it wouldn't be the entire Harvest team. It would or the entire team that's on Harvest. It would just be a few people that are on the scheduling side of things.
Yep, that's exactly right. You can have as many folks from Harvest in your forecast account as you need and no more, since they are built separately. Super easy to have just the relevant folks in the relevant tool.
We will be, I saw a couple questions on this. We will be sharing this recording of this presentation later on this week. And so we'll get that to you all as well. Okay. What's on the roadmap for forecast? I don't know if...
I'm going to leave that to Brian to decide how much he wants to disclose about that.
I think
one of the things that we are working on is surfacing additional context from forecast in Harvest and vice versa. We want to make it really easy for you to have that full understanding of everything that's planned throughout your Harvest experience, and the same when you're in forecast. And being able to provide that context, we find, is really helpful to our customers to gain those insights as they're comparing their estimates versus actuals and understanding their plans.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Ooh, interesting. Bringing this question to the front. What's the best practice to maintain forecasts? How often are teams updating forecasts? What have you seen, Maggie? You're muted, by the way.
Thank you very much. So that depends enormously on the team. Some folks will come in on maybe a weekly basis and make sure that everything is just so for the coming week. Some folks come in every couple months just to sort of roughly sketch out what they want their project to look like. If I will say that the more detailed your forecast plan, the more detailed that comparison is going to be when you get into Harvest and are comparing your estimates and your actuals. We tend to see a little bit more discrepancy between the estimated time and the actual time when folks kind of rough out the project at the very opening of the project and don't touch it again until the end. But actually, that's super valuable in and of itself. I tend to recommend that folks don't over-engineer their forecast schedules because you get a lot of value out of just putting in your best guess and then seeing how that stacks up against the real thing.
Yeah. I would also note we have on the forecast website, we do have some customer stories there, and there's a few instances where they do detail like how they use forecasts. There's some companies, I think one customer that has like a forecast huddle, which is a weekly meeting. There's daily people checking it daily just for their own schedules and assignments. But those provide a bit of just some examples, I think, of some what has worked for certain customers. So a lot to learn from there. Okay. We are just about at the 50-minute mark, which I think is about the time that we have for this. We will be sending a recording of this webinar later on, so you'll all have access to the video. Please write into support if you have any additional questions. And thank you all. Thank you both to Maggie and to Brian for being on this webinar, this panel with me. Thank you to Nicole. She's been in a flurry answering questions in the chat. So appreciate the questions, appreciate the feedback, and we'll definitely take a closer look at these and just see, what we can just help clarify moving forward, just with a lot of our materials and support articles, things like that. Thank you all.
Thanks everyone for taking the time.
Thank you so much, friends. Lovely to have you all here.
All right. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.